Hi, this video will be a good brush up on your fundamentals. If you're just getting started with Pilates, this will be a good way to check your form and get the most out of the exercises. And then if you've been doing Pilates for a little while and you need to step back in to that beginner's mind and just really fine tune some of the exercises, this can be a good video for that. All right, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to focus on is your breath. Breathing is super important for all the exercises we do in Pilates. And for different movement practices, you might move your breath into different parts of your body. But for Pilates, we want to focus on breathing into the back ribs. So a good way to do that is to take the hands. You're going to go thumbs forward, fingers back. You want to feel your fingers spread wide and just sit tall through the spine. And as we breathe here, try to expand that rib cage on the inhale. And on the exhale, settle the ribs back down. Full breath into those back ribs. Exhale, settling those ribs back down. So when we're breathing in any of the Pilates exercises, trying not to bring the breath into the belly or into the chest. We want to really move deep back in here into these back ribs, and that'll help with that navel to spine that we'll talk about next. So we're coming on down to the mat, and before we engage the abdominals, let's first talk about the spine. So find a position here with the arms long by the sides and allow the feet to land on your mat at about hip distance apart. The knees are hip distance apart, and we'll call that parallel hip distance. And we'll check in with the spine. So first noticing the ends of the spine, and we want to really weight the back of the head into the mat, and then weight the pelvis specifically down low all the way towards that tailbone into the mat. So the head and tail are heavy. We're not tucked in the tailbone. And when you have those two places heavy on the mat, you'll notice a little space at the back of the neck and a little space at the low back. And we want to maintain that. And we'll call that neutral spine. All right, so adding a little breath here, we'll move the breath into the back ribs. Exhale. Start to hug the belly button towards the spine. So this is the way we really work deep in the transversus abdominis. So we inhale, trying to maintain the navel in. And exhale, hug that belly button down towards the spine. But we're not tucking the tailbone. We're keeping the tailbone heavy on the mat in neutral. Now imagine that you have a whole band of belly buttons that goes all the way around the waistline. Not just in the front, not just on the sides, but all the way around the back. And when we breathe this time, we're going to hug that whole belly button band in. So full inhale. Exhale. Hugging the band of belly buttons in. So this isn't necessarily something you can see happening. It's more about you feeling that waistline drawing in here. Good. All right, so with the abdominals engaged, we're going to come into what we call an abdominal curl. We reach the arms up towards the ceiling, feeling the shoulders root into gravity. Full inhale. Exhale, lifting the head. Floating up off of those shoulder blades. Trying not to effort this place from the glutes, keeping those abdominals hugging in, and then resting the head back. Just a couple more here. Inhale. Exhale. Band of belly buttons hugging in, reaching through the fingers, and then resting the head back. One more full inhale. Exhale. Lifting the head, scooping that belly button in towards your spine, and resting the head back. Good. Arms go back down by the sides, and we'll work on a position called tabletop. So we're just going to do it on one leg at a time. Full breath. Hug the band of belly buttons in. Using those deep abdominals, float the right leg up to tabletop. So that's the knee living just above the hip there. We want to feel that perpendicular line of the thigh bone down towards the mat. And then the lower leg is parallel with the floor. And then taking that foot down, breathe. Exhale. Float the left leg up to tabletop. So again, finding that perpendicular line, knee just above the hip, lower leg parallel with the floor, and taking that foot down. So this is called marching. Right leg and left. So you've always got a foot on the mat here, nice and safe for the low back, but we find how to maintain stability in the pelvis, keeping neutral spine as we move the legs. Keeping the band of belly buttons hugging in as we move, finishing out that set, and rest. All right, so to come up off of the mat here, we're gonna roll to one side and then just push yourself on up to seated. Okay, so from here, we'll head into a little bit of quadruped action for the body. Okay, so a different position here, and this is a position we'll use for some other exercises, so it'll be good to know your alignment here. All right, so flipping on over to where we have the knees right underneath the hips at hip distance, and then the hands right underneath the shoulders. You spread the fingers wide and imagine that you're still on your mat and you're in a neutral position with the spine. So we don't drop the head here, we don't tuck the tail here, and we don't overarch in the spine either. You want to find that neutral position. Head and tail on the same line. Shoulders rooting back, knees right underneath the hips, hands right underneath the shoulders. Another thing to look out for here is the length in the elbows. We want long arms, but not locked. So finding that little bit of softness around the elbow there. And then hugging the belly button in without tucking the tailbone. So keeping that neutral spine, the natural curvature of the spine here. Exhale, hugging that band of belly buttons in, and then sitting the hips towards the heels. Great. All right, let's talk about the shoulders. Last thing we're going to talk about here with these fundamentals. So finding a seated position, let's take a second first to just notice the shoulders and all that they do. So letting the shoulders come up by the ears, dropping them down, rolling them forward and back. Just finding this little bit of a shoulder dance here. Just noticing that shoulder joint. And then let's specifically talk about how the upper arm bone fits into the shoulder joint. So reaching the arms out in front of you, we'll take this little dance of reaching through the fingers, closing off the chest a bit, and then rooting back and opening the chest. So this sort of protraction and retraction of that upper arm bone into the shoulder joint. And in Pilates, we work with the rooting of the shoulders. So the feeling of the shoulders really engaging, pulling back, finding those muscles in between the shoulder blades. So we, with our modern lifestyle of being on our computers a good bit, being on our phones, we tend to get a little bit more kyphotic here, but we want to try to find that lift of the sternum and a root of the shoulders here. So finding that protraction and retraction. Good, and rest. So when you hear that sort of cue of root the shoulders, open the chest, pull the shoulders back, that's that feeling of the upper arm bone rooting into the shoulder. So we want to really work towards that to help our posture and to help strengthen those muscles in the upper and mid back. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. Please use all of these fundamentals in every class. It's really going to give you the most out of each exercise if you're really working in good form. All right, thanks so much.